Good evening. Welcome again to the Blue Seahorse Show. I'm Sherry Niss. I have my guest here, Jane Flanagan. Uh, we've been doing the repairing broken adults. Tonight we would like to change that up a little bit and talk to you about codependency. Um, it is documented that codependency is learned. It's learned at a very early age. And so we're thinking that, the children are learn these codependent ideations, if you will, at an early age, and they carry it on into their adulthood. So we're going to talk a little bit about tonight about that, and I have some questions that you yourself, if you feel you're a codependent, I have several questions that I'm going to pretty much ask Jane. She's going to give you your feedback and any feedback that I may have as well. So to get started a little bit about what codependency is. They say it's a set of compulsive behaviors that are learned by family members in order to adapt in a setting where there is addiction. I know myself when I was growing up, I heard the word codependency, and it was usually because someone abused alcohol or someone was doing a drug. According to the further reading that I did with the codependency today, as an adult, being an older adult, they also find that mental ill and other disease processes, you could also find that you would also be codependent. So let's get started here. I'm going to ask Jane some questions, and we'll go from there. Um, and identifying codependency. Questions you can ask yourself. Here we go. Do you keep quiet to avoid any arguments?
Yes.
What kind of arguments would you be quiet for?
Um, any loudness, for one thing. As long as we're on an even level talking, I'm fine, but if they was to stand up, and that would mean to me that they would getting ready to be aggressive. So, that's when I'd probably quiet right down or
Mhm.
leave the room or, you know, part
Great.
somehow.
Usually, if I found myself with the codependency, I was involved, my ex-husband, I became codependent. That's how I discovered that there was such a thing as being codependent, okay? My thing was the belittling, downgrading, um, just plain awful mean. The mental and the emotional abuse was really bad, but the codependency part, a lot of times, just to keep things quiet and keep them on an even playing field, if you will. Um, I would do things or lie for the person, something just to keep it quiet.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything to appease them.
Have you ever worried about others' opinions about you?
No. No, I probably did in my younger years, I probably did,
Mhm.
but, I guess as I matured and went through a lot of stuff in my life, I found that it didn't matter to me. What mattered to me was me and my peace.
Mhm.
I had to have my peace inside of me, so,
Right.
I'm not so much.
Well, I know I have been told by others that it did matter to them because they knew that they were lying for the person or trying to make things look better that were not. But then later, after they defended that person, that either the addict or the substance abuser or whatever, they later worried, did they believe me? Was I believable enough? Should maybe I have done that a little differently? And so, getting back to the adult, It affects them. It affects them in a great way. Have you ever lived with someone who was an alcoholic or had a drug problem?
Yes, both. My father was an alcoholic. Um, my husband was, and he also was a drug addict. Would always find excuses for him with my mom especially, because she didn't like him. And he had a terrible childhood that we never shared with her. I always found excuses in that's why he was the way he was. And then later on, we found out he was bipolar, which caused a lot of his issues too, but I always found myself making excuses and trying to patch over things, that was said or done, and defending him.
Right? I always found that I wanted to please. I wanted to be a pleaser. We, as women, okay, we have the nurturing power. That's the way we are with our children.
Yes, we're fixers. And
We want to fix things. We want to make sure those things get done properly. But I know through some other studying that I've done as far as codependency, they say that families with children are not codependent. And the respect that the nurturing portion, when the children are small, they depend on the mother to feed them, to bathe them, to dress them, the necessities when they're at a certain age. But the way that the literature is saying that there is a certain point that those children get to that you need to back away, and you need to let them have that.
Be
Independent. Do not continue that, because then that's where the codependency comes in. So, I would say when a child is beginning to walk, and when a child can start putting its clothes, taking its clothes off, putting its clothes on, when they can actually get in and out of that bathtub, usually, when they're real little, you don't want to get too far away
right.
from that. But backing away, not continuing until they're teenagers or graduating from high school before you stop, cooking and cleaning and doing things for them. Have you ever lived with someone who has hit you or belittled you?
Yes, not hit, but belittled and, always the mental abuse. Like throwing something at you, but not where it's going to hit you, but at you. It hits the wall or whatever, enough to scare you, so you either are going to do something differently, but.
Well, in a relationship, there's always some belittling. If there's an argument, they're always belittling. But those are those that abuse physically. And a lot of times these relationships will go on and on and on, even though the partner is being abused. They find that they cannot leave the situation. They are going to do everything and anything in their power to stay in that situation, becoming that codependent. Okay, what did I do this particular time to make him and or her so mad?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that next time.
And try not to do it.
So they continue to do that constantly. Are the opinions of others more important than your own?
I think at times, like especially with my mom, I think with her, her opinion was important to me, but I don't think it was important enough not to be codependent. I think I fooled myself by trying to explain things to her, and then she would just shut up to me because she knew I wasn't gonna go have her opinion anyway. So she would just shut up and let it go. So when you think you're winning, actually you're not.
Right.
One of those things.
Dysfunctional families can become codependent on each other.
Right.
Let's say both parents are alcoholics or substance abusers. Both sides can become codependent. You know, he might say, well, I hit her last night, you know. He's sorry for that, even though he's done it a million times. Well, I'm sorry for that. What can I do the next time not to do that? Rather than just walk away, not communicate, they're going to get into this argument. They fight, you know, they're back and forth with their bickering and total disagreement on whatever the issue may be. And so this codependency, you know, they will feed off of each other. Unfortunately, if there's kids in the home, the kids are going to pick up on this
Yes.
and become involved in the codependency. Oh, well, dad hit mom, but mom's okay with that. I know in previous shows that we talked about that. What the kids see at an early age, what they don't see, what they will then carry on later in their life and be in a dysfunctional situation themselves. Well, I saw dad hit mom, but mom stayed kind of thing. So then they use that excuse later in life themselves. Well,
To keep
he hit
staying.
me, but I'm going to stay because that's
Yeah.
what my mom
And just
did.
keep staying, yeah.
Right.
And make an excuse for him hitting her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's probably quite a few people that do that. And a lot of the younger kids too, through some of the conversations that I've had, they seem to be more prevalent
Right.
to that too.
Right.
Because I don't think they've had any upbringing or an example to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mother will do whatever to get peace in the house, you know.
Have you ever had difficulty adjusting to change at work or at home during this time that you felt the most codependent?
Yes,
Elaborate.
I am very much against change of any kind. And I don't know if that was because of my childhood, but I have a real problem with any kind of change. Like, I worked 25 and a half years at my last job, and I sit in the same spot every day. And I would get very upset if somebody was sitting in that spot because they knew it was my spot.
Right, right.
I don't want, I want certain things done at my home. I want my towels folded a certain way, and I get upset if they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really, I suffer with that.
When we get older, we get set in our ways. I have gone through many changes over the years. I haven't always liked the changes. In fact, most of them I did not like. But after the fact, after it was all said and done, some of them were quite good changes. I've always been one, I really try to separate work from home. I've always tried to do that. I know that many people, it's hard to do. You know, when you leave work, don't bring it home. When you leave home, don't take your problems to work, kind of thing. But yeah, I've had many changes that have worked for me, and many that I wish would have never happened.
But at the time that the change is taking place, I always fought it, even though it ended up being better for me in the end. I still fought it because I just didn't like that change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my daughter wanted me to move not too long ago, and I can't make that change and move halfway across the United States. And I just can't, it's too big of a change for me to deal with.
Right. Okay, have you ever felt rejected when significant others spend time with friends? Thinking about the codependent aspect.
Yes, I used to have a real problem with my husband when he spent time with his brother and sister-in-law, only because they would taunt him into drinking and that type of thing. So I knew that when he come home, he wasn't, he was gonna be drunk.
You knew what he was doing.
Yeah. But if he just went over there to go fishing or something, it didn't bother me. And, but I usually knew when they were.
Right. Well, after a while, you tend to know who their friends are, associates,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So you know if they're going to You know, you've got an A, B, and C. Well, A and C are no-nos. B's, you pretty much know, what they're gonna do there. But if they tell you they're going to A or C, well, you know what's gonna happen. Okay, what am I going to do from this point forward and be ready for this when it comes home? How can I, as the codependent, be ahead of the game and make things better? What do I need to do at that point? But then, you have the jealousy aspect too. Being a codependent, a lot of times it is based on that jealousy factor. These abused individuals, they can't leave. They're in a place, they're in a situation where they can't leave. What am I gonna do? I've been with this person for X number of years. I don't know how to live by myself. I don't know how to be successful in anything. This is what I'm used to. What can I do? I need to find something to make this better. Whether it's lying for the person, or whatever it may be.
Lying, making up excuses,
Mhm.
whatever.
Do you doubt your ability to be who you want to be?
No, I don't.
I don't anymore. I
I
did.
guess I should say anymore too.
Right, I did.
Yes, I
There
do.
was a point I did. I did not. I didn't have the ability to be nothing. But in that situation where the codependency aspect was there, it came a point one day where my children were what were important. It wasn't what was important for me anymore.
Right.
It was what was important for my children. Let me get my children out of the situation, get them in a safe place, then I'll work on myself, which, by the way, takes a very long time to do. Um, Therapy, you've got to bring some kind of therapy. You've got to have somebody that you can talk to. You have got to have a support group, because codependency, it can be very hard on anybody's life, so.
Well, not only that, but you go into the next relationship
Right.
with the same mindset too. You'd end up doing the whole cycle over again. You would never break that cycle.
Do you have difficulty taking compliments or gifts?
Yes, I do.
I enjoy getting compliments when I do things that are worth that compliment. But I've always been the fixer. I still find myself trying to do those codependent things even today. But I can recognize them today where I couldn't back then.
Yep.
You're not going to recognize those things until you find people like you and I, or support groups, or therapists, or somebody that you can talk to about a codependent situation. Gifts, I love gifts. I don't get many of them, okay? I enjoy getting a gift. I usually might get Mother's Day gift and Christmas gifts. My children avoid my birthday too, so, but yeah. Do you feel humiliation when your child or your spouse makes a mistake?
It depends on the mistake, I suppose, but yeah, I do. I I feel like I should have done better with my kid. And when they do something, you feel, oh my God, now I didn't do my job. I didn't teach them right. And some of it probably is influence outside that is why they act the way they do. Because I was very strict with my daughter, very strict, and she still, acted up. She's still a kid, she's still a teenager, and she still ran with the kids and acted up. But yes, I would be embarrassed.
Right. Well, my spouse at that time was always making mistakes. It got to the point where I did not know what a mistake was, because they were constant. As far as my children, I felt sorry, I felt sorry for him. I tried to make it right, here we go with the nurturing again, I was trying to fix it if I could. I was trying to fix it. there's not a lot of things that are fixable, you know, the children, I got to the point where my children have to learn their lessons. Never have they been in any real, you know, trouble that required legal aspect anywhere, but they have made their mistakes, and today, being adults, they have to face those mistakes and deal with them on their own. Do you think people in your life would go downhill without your constant efforts?
Yes. At times I do, yes. Um, I guess because we're fixers, we're nurturing people. Um, I do try to fix everything with my daughter, my grandkids. You know, whenever something goes wrong or they're short of money, you know, I try to get in there and see what I can do. And that's the wrong thing to do. I know that, but I guess I don't want them to do without. Um, so I
I don't want my children to do without either, but, and knowing, I know on our last show, we talked about the cancer. Um, over this last year, I have found that I'm backing away from some of the things that I did do, you know, as far as my children were involved, um, you know, taking them places of, just simple things, okay? Not because I don't want to do them anymore, but I'm still working on the codependency. I'm trying to back away. They're adults now. They have their own home. They have their own
children.
family. My one has her own child with another on the way. So it's time for mom to take care of herself. You know, and like I said, you know, codependency is just like a disease. It may take a short time to become involved and become a codependent. But it may happen slowly and become gradual over amount of time. It's not something that you can fix overnight.
Right. And first you have to recognize it.
Right.
And sometimes it takes people a little bit of time to recognize that, or somebody to point it out to them.
Mm.
And you're right, trying to correct it is the big problem for me. Because I'm like you, I still find myself trying to
Right.
get in there.
Do you frequently wish someone would help you get things done? I guess that means housework at home, maybe running errands because you're sick. Things that I guess switching the tables. You know, you'd always take care of the dishes. You'd always run in and take care of the bills. You go for the grocery shopping. But when you feel good, you wish that someone would make that same effort that you, doesn't mean that you're going to become codependent, but the way I look at it, it's like, I did all this stuff for you for so many years. Is there not just, did I teach you nothing? Is there not just one time or one day in your life in a month
That you can think for
that
yourself.
that you could think for yourself and maybe help your mother out, or help your sister out, or help your aunt out? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is, you know, but trying to get that help sometimes and knowing that it can be done, it doesn't work sometimes. Um, do you have difficulty talking to people in authority, such as police or your boss?
No,
I haven't either.
no, I was union president for over 19 years, so I had to do a lot of talking to the bosses and the higher ups, and
Mhm.
so I was comfortable with that, so.
I think maybe I did many years ago when I was really in the codependent phase in my life. It wasn't because I was afraid of authority. It's just the situation that I was in. I didn't want the authority around me. I wanted to get away from that situation, but I wasn't there yet. I never got there. Today I don't have any problem. I don't have any problem doing it today. So, but like I say, it's all, once you take care of, or once you begin to fix the codependency, once you're able to get away from that situation that you're in and be able to heal, if you will, take care of yourself, are you going to be able to identify many of these questions? I guess in the aspect that they're getting better. All these questions, you should be able to identify a great deal of them, if not all of them. Some of them may not even affect you in any way whatsoever, but I think for the most part, when I'm reading them, have.
Right, and you have to be aware of it,
Mhm.
or you're gonna fall right back into doing the codependency thing. You have to be aware of what you did wrong and change it.
Mhm.
And you need to, have people point it out to you if you have to,
Mhm.
in order to make things different.
Right. Are you confused about who you are or where you are going with your life?
No. No, I probably was at one time. I think when I ended up off from work, I was really not knowing which direction I was going in. So that's when I started volunteering and doing things, just to keep busy, keep from being depressed.
Mhm.
But no, I know where I'm going. I know what's in my future.
Many codependent individuals, they don't know where they're going. They're in a position where they think that's where they should stay. And until they move on from that situation, are they going to be able to start a life of their own? Become involved in the therapy and start doing things? Are they going to be able to carry on with a life that they chose? They probably feel they can't go anywhere.
Well, and two, if they get the help, like you said, they'll be
Mhm.
okay. If they don't get the help, they'll be in that position their whole life.
Mhm.
And then the next person that comes along, they will nurture them and be codependents to them. But I guess that's why we're doing this and a lot of talking about this, because you have to change your life. And if you don't, you're going to end up back in the same rut.
Right, right.
So,
If you're in a codependent situation, I guess this is for anyone that's watching. If any of these questions, there are still a few more, but we're getting close to our time, so I just want to stress to anybody out there, if you feel that any of these questions, any of them whatsoever, affect you in any way, that it is very possible that you are codependent, and the longer that codependency continues, the more you will become dysfunctional, you will become depressed. You may not be eating well, you're worried about what others may begin to think of you. Eventually, this abuser, user, drunk, whatever, his surroundings are going to be more obvious to everybody in their surroundings.
everybody
And
will
they're
pick up on
eventually
it.
going to know what situation you're in.
Right.
Reach out. If you don't have internet access, find somebody that does.
Go to a
Go
church.
to a church, go to a library. I just encourage you to work on this, because it's very unhealthy, and you can in fact become very ill if you don't get the help that you need. Um,
Right.
yeah, but like I say, I am so glad that you joined us this evening. Our time is, of course, running out about right now, so please take care, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Goodbye.